Hi, I'm William Gilmore here for the ScreenwritersJourney.com, and this is ScriptTalk, our ongoing series of conversations with actors, directors, writers, and producers. And today I have with me an actor who has appeared in Body of Proof, Numbers, Law and Order, and he's also been in the feature film Duress, Mr. Joey Adams. Thank you for being here, Joey.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
Oh, my pleasure. All right, now before we get into it, 'cause you've got a big project coming up.
I do.
But let's find out a little bit about you first. Now, where are you from, and how did you get started in the business?
Well, I'm from Chicago originally. I grew up in Florida. How did I get started? I've been an actor since I was about 5. I got my SAG card when I was about 5 years old.
So you started really young in this.
Yeah. So just doing that, commercials and theater and all of those things.
So where did you go from Chicago then? I mean, did you do a lot of work in Chicago? Or
I was very young. Moved to Florida when I was very young. Did some work there. Actually, a lot of work in those days in Orlando and Miami, and lots of small professional theaters around. So from there, went to college in New York and did a lot of Broadway.
Oh, yeah?
Soap
Where
opera.
did you go to school in New York?
I went to NYU.
So you're a Tisch guy, Tisch School of Performing Arts.
I was the Tisch guy.
Okay.
Yes, me and 400 billion other people.
So tell me a little bit about what that was like. You're in New York, you're going to school as an actor, you're getting to appear on Broadway and off-Broadway, you're doing television shows. What was it like to be there at that time?
To be in New York, at least for an actor, is probably the greatest experience there is. So it was an amazing experience.
Now, did you get a lot of work out of Tisch, doing theater there, or were you concentrating primarily on trying to get into television?
No, I actually never, I never meant to do television, believe it or not. I wanted to be an actor on Broadway my entire life, as long as I can remember. So I grew up, dreaming of being on Broadway. In New York I did a lot of off-Broadway, Broadway a couple of times, soap, some TV stuff here and there, a few films, things like that.
So your career's kind of taken off a little bit. You're doing some good work. You're appearing on television shows. You're on Broadway. You're off Broadway, and you decided to come to California. What brought that about? What was your reason for coming out here?
I came out to California. I did a pilot that brought me out here that ended up not getting picked up, and I decided to stick around and finish grad school. So that's what brought me out here. And then I decided, it doesn't snow in LA, so it's not so bad.
Definitely a lot warmer here.
Yes.
Definitely a lot warmer. So now, when you got out here, you did your feature film Duress?
I did. Duress was a thriller about a serial killer and a father that was forced to go to these great lengths to protect his daughter. I can't give away the ending, but there's a big twist ending, and it's very scary. You should check it out.
Definitely. So when you're doing your television shows in New York, like Law and Order, did you get to work with the writers at all? Did you get to play with the characters, or did they just give you the sides the night before and you had to show up on set with your lines memorized?
No. Sadly, you don't. At least an actor at my level, I suppose, when you're at the level of Meryl Streep or someone like that, you get to work closely with the actor, with the writers. I didn't, and that's actors are a tool a lot of times to tell the story, and that's something that sort of led me to write, to start creating my own things, to have a little more creative control over the story and to tell stories. And
was writing something that you were doing alongside your acting, or were you concentrating just primarily on acting as you were coming up through NYU and New York?
Writing never was something I considered as a career. It's always been sort of an outlet for me, as long as I can remember. It's always been something that I've done for myself. Short stories and plays and screenplays and novels. Had a couple of scripts optioned, had a play published when I was very young. So it's just sort of this thing that keeps coming back, even though I'm not pursuing it. Every now and then it finds me.
Well, I know everyone's going to want to know right off, how did you get a script optioned?
Well, for anyone that doesn't know the option process, it's really, it can be really encouraging, and it can be really disheartening. It's a long process more often than not. And if someone's not familiar, optioning is when a studio or a production company takes an interest in a property, a script, and they decide to option it, which means that they agree to buy the rights for a set period of time to develop that script, to see if it's something that they want to turn into a viable production. Sometimes this process is really fast, sometimes it takes several years, sometimes that process includes rewrites and recastings and reimagining the entire story. So it can be a great and encouraging thing when you're a writer and you get an option, you think, oh wow, I've made it, but it also can be just this really, really soul-crushing blow because at least in my experience, the things that I optioned were always sort of retooled and retooled and retooled, and then sort of put it on the back burner. So it's an encouraging thing, but also sometimes it can be a little bit of a little discouraging, which is what led me to sort of do the new project I'm working on my own, trying to circumvent that process.
Now that brings us to your current project, Internity. What is Internity exactly? Can you tell us a little bit about the story and how did you come up with the idea for it?
The title is sort of a play on words. It's about a group of interns, medical interns, who are in the first year of their profession going through intern hell. So it's just a little play on words. And it takes place in Portland. It's a television series. It's an ensemble show with some characters that I don't think have been on television before. For instance, the star of the show, Marina Sirtis, who everybody probably knows from Star Trek The Next Generation, and she was in the film Crash and dozens of projects. She plays a woman who returned to medical school at age 50 after going through a divorce and raising her kids and sending them off to college. So she's this woman who's lived half of her life, and now she's starting all over, finally pursuing her dream and becoming the doctor that she always wanted to be. She's in this group of working with people who are half her age. So that's one component of the show. The other component, the character I play, Dr. Nate, is someone that sort of has a very rich imagination, and he is someone that's sort of a fanboy, a Comic-Con fanboy, and he's obsessed with old television shows and movies, and he sort of has these fantasy sequences where he dreams that he's in these iconic shows and movies and doing scenes with actors from those shows. So it gives us the opportunity to have guest stars from classic shows and the Comic-Con world and films and really anyone on our show in a new scenario with our actors in a modern scene.
Now you've got a lot of name talent involved in this project. Some names that a lot of producers would be really, really happy to have involved. How did you go about doing that? How did you find these folks? And how willing were they to be involved?
I'm very lucky. I wish I had a magic secret or formula that I could share with everybody. But I wrote this show, and to my great luck and my good fortune, everyone that we've cast so far, I had in mind when I wrote the roles for them. And I sent them the script. I said, I don't know if you'll like this. I don't know if you want to attach yourself to a television pilot that has no money, but here it is. And shockingly, everybody so far has said yes. We have Jim Beaver, who most people know from Supernatural and Deadwood, and he has a big movie coming up, Crimson Peak. We have Richard Riccolo, who was on Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place. Carly Jimenez, who was on a show with Tim Allen now called Last Man Standing. And we have Julie McNiven from Mad Men and also Supernatural. And then our director, Michael Dorn, who most people probably know as Worf from the Star Trek franchise. And he's directing the series and then making a special cameo. As I mentioned, my character sort of has flashback scenes where actors from old shows appear, so we're doing a Star Trek The Next Generation reunion in the pilot episode of this show, so that should be fun for sci-fi fans.
So you got a lot going on here. I mean, there's a lot packed into the show. You got a great cast set up to it. How did you come up with the idea for it?
I wish I could say that I had this great idea to do this thing to propel my own career, but it really wasn't about me at all. My character was actually one of the last that I thought of. The first character was actually Marina's character, of the woman who goes back to school at age 50. I was raised by a single mom, so it's just something that I always had in the back of my mind. I think there should be a show about a single working mom doing all these things. And I think that it's one of those situations. I think there are millions and millions of women out there who do that. Maybe they're not all going to medical school, but they all know what it's like to raise a family on their own and the challenges of that. And I've at least, maybe not never, but very rarely have seen those stories told on television. So I wanted to do a show that gave a voice to those women out there. So that was the first character I wrote. The second character I wrote was Richard Riccolo's character, who is this very talented, brilliant doctor who has sort of a distance about him because he wants to be doing something else. He maybe longs to, teach Russian literature at some little liberal arts school in New England, or drive around the country in his Winnebago. But it's a show with all of these characters. It's an ensemble. Everybody sort of has their own agenda, and we think it's something that hasn't been on television before. So we're all really excited.
Now you're talking about doing this as a pilot, but a pilot for what? What is the ultimate format for this show? Is this something you're looking to take to network television or cable? Is it a web series, something to go on Hulu or Netflix with possibility of binge watching?
We're open for everything. We want to do a television project. Now there are lots and lots of really great web series. Not too long ago, a web series was something a little bit looked down upon, I think, in the industry, and now you have web series that are winning Emmys. I mean, if you think about it, all the shows, the Hulu shows, the Netflix shows, those are all technically web series, and they're, they have a huge fan following, and they're winning major awards now. So I think it's a really exciting time, and my advice to anyone, whether it be actors or writers or directors, just do it, do something. Technology has gotten to the point now where it's so accessible, it's more affordable, you don't have to spend thousands of dollars on a clunky film camera. You can get a really nice digital camera for relatively reasonable amount of money. So I think that's the best way. Do your own thing, do your own videos, get something on YouTube, get your own channel going. I mean, there are now, I'm sure anyone watching the show is well aware that there are several YouTube stars that have more followers and viewers than network television shows right now. So it's really, the great thing about the internet is that it's an equalizer for everyone. For my show, we are trying to get a network behind us, but I mean, it's certainly the format is something that could easily lend itself to a web series if that's the turn that this whole process takes eventually.
Now, this is a network television show that you're proposing, and that takes a lot of money. You got a lot of name talent attached. How are you financing this?
Well, our first goal, we have a Indiegogo campaign that's going on right now. Our goal was to raise all the money we need to shoot the pilot on Indiegogo. The reason being, we wanted to sort of circumnavigate the process that I talked about earlier, the option process. We wanted to keep this cast intact and keep creative control over the script. It's maybe not the easiest sell to go to a network and say we have this show about a bunch of interns, one of whom is a middle-aged person starting their lives over. Probably the first note the network would give is like, okay, let's recast this role as a 35-year-old, whatever. So we're trying to appeal to the fans of good TV and the fans of all of our great cast involved, and we're going to try to do it independently first. If that doesn't work, then plan B is to go the traditional route and see what we can come up with.
I have to say, it's a very difficult proposition. I had a friend today actually just email me. He was working on a web series project. He's been working on it for 3 years and did a crowdfunding project for it, and he did not make his goals, but he continued working on it anyway, trying to make it happen, and it's just been too much for him, and he's finally decided to call it quits on that project and moving on to others. And so he's writing everybody and asking them if they want their money back. So it's a very difficult proposition. It's not nearly as easy as people seem to think it is.
It's tough. There's a lot of competition. There are a lot of really good, worthwhile projects out there that deserve contributions. We hope that ours is one of those, but there's a lot of competition. For every show that you hear about, like the Con Man series, for instance, that raised I don't know how many millions of dollars by now, but lots, and the Veronica Mars movie and the Zach Braff movie and all of those, there are hundreds and thousands of other campaigns that fail. So it's really tough. It's just as competitive as anything else. It's the crowdfunding market is just as competitive as the traditional, old school way of sending your script out to an agent, trying to get some notice and trying to get headway. So everything's tough, everything is a competition, but it's another avenue. The greatest thing about this campaign, well, there are two things. There's a very sad side to crowdfunding, and that is you find out that people you've known most of your life might not care about this love that you are pouring yourself into. But the great thing about crowdfunding is that you find that a stranger you've never met will just go to bat for you. We have some amazing supporters on Twitter that spend hours each day trying to get the word out about us, and that's the most encouraging thing. It's the greatest feeling, and we're so grateful for it. I'm so lucky to have the great cast that I have, and not only do I have their support in agreeing to be in the show, they've all been working so hard for free, I might add, making videos for us and doing interviews and promoting on social media and doing all those things. So it really, if we succeed, and I'm still confident that we will, even though time is running out, it will be because of the supporters that we have and because of the hard work of the cast. It has very little to do with me, I'm sorry to say. I wish I could take credit for it, but my contribution was really the idea. It's sort of taken on its own life since then.
So if somebody wants to help contribute and make this series a reality, how do they do that?
Oh, first of all, they can follow us on Twitter at Internity TV Show.
And that's Internity with an I.
With an I, yes. INTERNITY. They can check out our website, internitytv.com, and they can find us on indiegogo.com and search Internity.
Well, thank you, Joey, for coming in and talking to us. We do appreciate you stopping by and giving us some information on your new project.
Thank you, Bill.
So that'll wrap up this edition of Script Talk for the ScreenwritersJourney.com. Please check out the website for additional Script Talk interviews as well as insider information on our news page. And I'll be back on the blog tomorrow with an update on the progress of my own journey in the field of screenwriting. For the ScreenwritersJourney.com, I'm William Gilmore. Keep writing.